Welcome to Infertility Unfiltered, where fertility experts and warriors are joining forces to share facts, tips, lessons, and inspiration so you can take back control of your life on this fertility journey and get your baby on board. I'm Jennifer Robertson, and today with me I have the amazing Sarah Clark. So Sarah is a certified life coach and a health coach with training from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. She's also the author of Fabulously Fertile, Supercharge Your Fertility Naturally. She has a coaching program that includes functional lab testing, and she supports couples to make diet and lifestyle changes that dramatically improve the chances of a healthy pregnancy and baby. She's also the host of the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And today we are going to be talking about 3 reasons, or as many reasons as we can think of, for why your IVF cycle may have failed and how you can improve your success. And if you stick around to the end, Sarah is going to tell you how you can get your hands on a copy of her book as well. So thank you for joining us, Sarah. Now, before we kick off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into where you are today?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. So I had my own journey with infertility. I remember in my early 20s, I was joked I was having menopausal hot flashes. I was in HR at the time, and I was like fanning my face going, oh, menopausal hot flash. Turns out that's what it was. So at the time I had a regular cycle. So they were coming a couple times a year. I had a weird fungal rash on my chest. I started getting acne. When in my teens, I didn't have any acne at all. And then I had some yeast infections. So first line of defense with acne, went to my OBGYN, and she put me on the pill. So I was on the pill for a number of years. I had this life plan of getting married at 25, did that. Then wanted to have my kids at 28, came off the pill, and the cycles were still irregular. So I wanted to have my children. So I went in and got tested, and I was told I had premature ovarian failure, or otherwise as it's now known, premature ovarian insufficiency, and told the only way I'd ever have children is using donor eggs. And I remember being in shock, going, what, at 28, going, what is going on? I remember her reaching up for the IVF brochure, and off I went to the fertility clinic. Did not get a second opinion, did not connect any of those other health issues that were going on in my body. Went straight to donor eggs. Was lucky enough on the first fresh transfer to have our daughter, and who's 18 now. So many years ago, donor eggs, people were like, I don't know what that is. Now it's more popular, not popular, but more common with embryo adoption, embryo donation. Then we had 2 embryos left over. Wanted the kids close together, went back in, and that didn't work. Had to go on another list for a separate donor, and had our son. So he's 15. And then really after I had my daughter, like my health took a nosedive. I was still functioning in the corporate environment, but I remember having like 9 colds in 1 year. Every cold went to a sinus infection. I took antibiotics for every cold. I had chronic bladder infections with peeing blood. Again, antibiotics for every bladder infection. The yeast infections got worse. I had vertigo, toenail infections, a seasonal allergy, dandruff, headaches, all these things. I was still functioning, but my immune system was just, pathetic. Wasn't until I decided to bring life coaching into the corporate environment, and I had my own personal wake-up call, and then decided I really wanted to go to health and wellness, did the health coaching course, discovered I had these food sensitivities. So for me, it was gluten, dairy. Later on, found out corn. A couple years later after that, found out I had some gut infections, so streptococcus and fungal infections and H. pylori, and then also the kind of that go, chronic stress. And I didn't discover any of that till I was 40, fully in menopause, no longer cycling normally or naturally. And so really being able to help other people, if you're still cycling naturally, there's things, even if you decide to go, to donor eggs, that's not a guaranteed thing either. So to really be able to get to the root cause of what is going on and help you figure out why, and then get pregnant and have your baby.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so do you believe that all of those things were, I guess you can't know for sure, but do you believe that they had a real impact on, your ovarian reserve levels?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're seeing it with the couples that we're helping. I just had someone last week who had premature ovarian failure at 28. diagnosed at 28, and she just announced that she's 14 weeks pregnant. So she went through our program and then did 2 rounds of IVF. And really with POF, it's basically they won't even do IVF because there's not enough reserve there. And so she's 14 weeks pregnant, and we've helped other people get pregnant naturally with AMH of 0.09, POF, like secondary infertility being told it's POF. So, I've helped other people, and it's really, I'll never know for sure, but all the signs of, I didn't have any of the genetic predisposition of Turner syndrome and all of Fragile X and all these different other things for POF. I have food sensitivity, as I have an MTHFR gene that predisposes me to, not being able to methylate properly. I have thyroid dysfunction. Like I was on birth control for, years and years. So all things that I see with the couples that we're coaching. And it's just kind of cool to be able to look at the root cause. And a lot of times people come to see me and they've gone through IUI and IVF and it's failed. And we're like, wait a minute, let's dig deeper. So the functional approach is very, very, very targeted approach to figure out why it's not working in the first place.
Awesome. And so that brings us into, when you're going to do your IVF cycle, I mean, it costs a lot of time, it costs a lot of money, it costs a lot of mental preparation as well. So what are the tips that you provide? Like, what are the top tips for how someone going through an IVF cycle can give it their best chance?
Yeah. So we're saying if basically you've got an IVF coming up, if you've decided that IVF is for you and you're going in the next month, and really the functional approach probably doesn't make sense. There's going to be things that if we find things, we're not able to address them, and you're going to waste your money by investing all the things that we're doing. So I do run a mindfulness program that goes a couple times a year. So that's where I would go, like really visualizing it working. But as far as why it may have failed, and we see people that have had failed IUIs, failed IVFs, it takes an average of 3 cycles of IVF at a cost of $60,000 for it to work. And, that's a huge investment, and all that medication being pumped into your body, the body's shouting at you, telling you, why is this not working? So the top 3 things that we see. So basically it's missed stressors on the body. So physical stressors and emotional stressors. So the physical stressors that people just don't think about are food sensitivities. We see this all the time, such as the case with me. So looking at food sensitivities, again, if a body's mounting an immune response to some of your favorite foods, it doesn't want to procreate, it wants to survive. We see that all the time. Gut infections, people wouldn't think that, to do a stool test if they have fertility. It's the last place they look at. So gut infections, like so our test looks at that we have access to testing, we ship it worldwide. We see parasites and bacterial infections and fungal infections and H. pylori being passed back and forth to partners. So there's typically something, we haven't had a stool test come back going, wow, everything's great. There's usually some healing opportunities in there. And then the environmental toxins. I think people are coming into knowing this a little more, but we're in the middle of a huge food experiment where we're like all sitting in toxic soup too, with all the personal care products that we're lathering on our skin that have all these chemicals. And there's like 85,000 chemicals that we're exposed to that are endocrine disruptors. So really those, like minimizing and eliminate, you can't really eliminate, but minimizing your exposure to environmental toxins, the personal care, the cleaning products, like on a first thing, like make sure that your pads and tampons are not conventional brands. You want to make sure that they're natural, non-toxic. You're putting that in most, on your vagina, your most delicate area. The water that you drink, making sure that's filtered. The plastic, especially for male fertility. EMF exposure, we're talking about that, about the earphones. So like with all this Wi-Fi with cell phones, like never ever put the cell phone to your ear, the EMFs that coming off of that, and you never, for your partner and for you, not putting the cell phone, the laptop, do not put it on your lap or near your reproductive organs. There's lots of studies talking about the dangers of EMFs. So those environmental toxins are key. I think a lot of times in the fertility side of things, we know more about the stress of infertility in itself. So obviously going through infertility is stressful, but then there could be childhood trauma, there could be unresolved trauma. Even people, like I'm coaching couples, and most of the time they're coming to me in love, wanting to have their baby. Other times they want to rip each other's heads off and they're not in a good place. So looking at like where are the stressors emotionally, getting honest about that, and really and sometimes if you've had a number of failed cycles, you can't even visualize it working. Like some people are like, I feel broken. I don't think it's going to work. I'm in such a dark place. And that is like really key to like self-care, really reach out for support to have someone help. Like if you can't see it working, me telling you to change your diet and, you know, throw all your personal care stuff out is probably too much. Like that mindfulness side of things, and like really getting into that place of trusting your intuition and like knowing like that stuff is really key. So that's the first thing, is really looking at those physical and emotional stressors.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the emotional side of things is such a key thing, not just on your fertility journey, but in life as well. Like learning how to be emotionally intelligent and learning how to deal with all of the different things that come into our lives on a day-to-day basis, I think is such a life lesson anyway. So what are some really tangible things that they can do? So let's break it up. So in terms of the physical food side of things, what is the one thing that they could do today that could just make a small tweak? Because there's obviously, I mean, there's so much information out there and there are so many things that we can do. It's really hard not to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I'd have both you and your partner start the elimination diet. It's the gold standard to figure out if you have a food sensitivity, taking out the top allergens from your diet for 10 days, systematically reintroducing them, see exactly how food makes you feel. Most people that come in tell me they eat a clean diet, and then when we dig into it, it's actually most people have a food sensitivity. So I would have you and your partners, even if it's female factor infertility, he's still to do this along with you. And we see a lot of people that have even if they've had a celiac test, there's a lot of false negatives in the celiac testing, but we see a lot of non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So people have gluten exposure, and it causes reactions. So really dig into the diet piece, like that's key.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in terms of environmental things, like where's the one place they need to go right now and check the labels or cleanse, do a swap?
Yeah, I'd start with your water. Really, you should be drinking 8 glasses of water. It's important to have. I think we all know that. I used to like go to the bathroom once a day, like pee once a day. Thought that was a great thing because I was too busy, but not anymore. I have my 8 glasses. I go every hour or sometimes more. But yeah, it is to make sure it's filtered. So you don't want to be drinking tap water. It's filled with all sorts of contaminants. You want to get a filter on your water. At a minimum, get a Berkey filter, and make sure that you're drinking out of glass or stainless steel. Because again, the endocrine disruptors that are, the plastic leaching into the water can impact your body. So water, drink the 8 glasses, and yeah.
Okay. And in terms of mindfulness techniques, what's your one favorite thing?
I think it's like to really, you can add mindfulness into your daily routine. It's not like the fact that you have to sit there and meditate all day long. Like we all eat, mindful eating. We're in the middle of the pandemic right now. You're washing your hands a lot. Mindful hand washing. Mindful, if you're in our house has stairs, mindfully walking up the stairs. A lot of times we're like rushing around and we're doing all these things. So being really in the present moment, to do that each day is key. And we find a lot of people are down the infertility research rabbit hole. So if you find you're spending hours a day researching, typically most people I talk to, they don't come up feeling better, they feel worse. So it's be mindful of your infertility research. It's a big, because it can be a trigger, the comparison, a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and not helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so do you have a single source, like a place where if someone's watching this and they're like, okay, I need some resources, like a single source of information that they can go to? Do you have a resource or something that they can refer to?
I have a lot of freebies. So I have a freebie page with, there's a 3-day fertility diet challenge in there. There's a free fertility yoga they can download, they can do. There's a free fertility visualization. So there's that. And obviously my biggest resource is my podcast. I've got like tons of stuff on there to be able to help optimize yourself. Again, you don't want to go down the rabbit hole. Like I would start the elimination diet, switch to organic if you can, drink water, and watch that research. I see that as a main trigger if you want to start right away.
That's amazing. And so we'll put your details in the details below this video just so that they can click through. And how can they get their hands on your book?
Yeah, so my book is on Amazon. So Fabulously Fertile, they can check it out there. They can go to my website, fabfertile.com, fabfertile.com. But yeah, that's the best place to find it. So Amazon or my site.
Awesome. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. Now, if you really enjoyed this video too, make sure you give it a little bit of love. Feel free to share it. Feel free to give it a like, and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss another episode. There are so many episodes that are coming up, just like Sarah's, fantastic tips and inspiration from experts and warriors. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another episode of the Infertility Unfiltered series. Thank you for joining us.